Welcome to Project Play. I am Kaye England with Wilmington Prints, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about a quilt called cattywampus. Let's figure that out. We're excited to be back with you for another Project Play video. And there's a few things that are going to be different about the one we're doing today. It's the first time that we will have worked with anything but a pre-cut strip, because we're going to be working with 5-inch squares. So those would still be gems because we are working with our essential fabrics. So we're going to be working with the 5-inch squares, but it's still sparkly stuff, still gems, still all of that. Now, I don't know how many of you are from the South, but growing up in the South, cattywampus was a word that we heard frequently. It was things whack-a-jaw, messed up, some sort of whatever. I even did a little AI. Now, I want you to know that, look at me, I am not an AI person. However, I think it's fascinating. If you just type in something, then ask AI, it sounds like you have a PhD in English, the way it translates it. So let me just tell you, when I went to AI and asked about what is a cattywampus quilt, here's what I found out, which I just thought was fascinating. Now I have to read this because my memory's not this good. It says, in our quilting world, a cattywampus design is one that is excitingly askew. I've done that. It says, this pattern has created a whimsical or off-kilter, I've even done that, pattern, leaving the quilt with a charming cattywampus lean. I've even done that. When I've told you folks that working with these pre-cuts and everything, how this is so friendly to a beginner, I tell you, this quilt is a slam dunk for a beginner. The one other exciting thing about this pattern, other than the fact that we're going to be working with 5-inch squares instead of just 2.5-inch pre-cuts, is it is the first project we have done where the quilt is actually set on a diagonal in lieu of a straight row. So if you remember, we've sewn things in like a 4-patch setup or row 1, row 2, and row 3. This time we're going to be making the quilt in all diagonal rows. When I look at the project sheet, you'll be able to tell that it is always going to be on an angled assembly. You first make your elements, then once you've got all of the pieces made, you will go to a wall or the floor or your tablecloth or whatever method you've got, because this is a quilt that you really do need to lay the entire quilt out prior to actually sewing. So let's take a look at just how easy the assembly is on this. Okay, so our packs for this, we still have the pre-cut packs of our 5-inch blue notes. Now we're working in this coloration, and you all know that you might choose to use another, and your pattern will give you 2 different colorations. A teal coloration is on the back cover, and then the blue notes coloration is on the front cover. So you need 1 pack of dry brush. Now that is our 2.5-inch pre-cut strips. So as you look at the quilt behind me, everything that isn't blue is our dry brush, and that's the slate color. So it is really a yummy sort of grayish color. And then the blue notes, the 5-inch packs, you have 2 of those. So let's look at this on our overhead, and let me show you. You've got assorted colors like you're seeing. You've got some that are a little patterned, and then some that are textured. And this is one of those things that you have to kind of play around with these, lay them all out, and then go, ooh, do I like those 2 together? Do I like those 2 together? So your goal is take 2 of your 5-inch squares and sew them together like so. Then your only other job, you will have been asked to cut strips to equal those 2 sewn together for the sides. And for that, what you're going to be doing is you'll sew your 2 squares together, and this is where you just pre-select and just sew a bunch of 2 patches together. That'll give you exactly what you need here. Then you will put 2 sides on it, and you will have made your block. That's it. So you can see from looking at these that there's a variation in just my 4. And I will tell you, don't get too caught up in going, oh, I don't like that blue with that blue, and I don't like the way that one looks with that one. Once you get these all assembled that look like this, once they all look like this, then the way you're laying them out is the cattywampus. You're putting And that's where, if you feel like you've gotten some of them, they're too close in contrast or something like that, then the only thing you have to do is move it within that wall prior to sewing your rows together. So with the exception of this block, I'm telling you, this is the block. That's it. Then the other thing that your pattern will ask you to do is it will ask you to cut a set size square. Then it will ask you to cross cut that square twice, yielding you 4 triangles. Now what we've got then is a 1/4 square triangle. And that's what is used in all of the side setting triangles. So you've got X number of these little guys, and these are 1/4 square, meaning straight of grain is on that outside edge, which is where we put our borders, and that's important. Then what lives in the middle is like a rubber band. So you want to be real careful when you mess with this. So what you're going to be doing then is you're going to be sewing a strip. Let me go to this one first. You're going to be sewing a strip longer than this because, and we'll show you a diagram of this where you can lay your ruler on after you've sewn. You will trim this off like so, and then it will look like this. So once you get this, and X number of these, and X number of these, you're done. All you got to do now is lay them out, and I am telling you that the bulk of your time is not even going to be in the original cutting and the sewing of the elements. It's going to be getting this positioned to where you're happy with the way the coloring is. And when I was working on the quilt, compared to the ones we've shown you previously, this is less busy. To some, it might not be as striking. To some, the others might have been overstimulating. What I loved about this when I was working on it is we know we're real close. Kids have gone off to college, the guys, the gals. This would make a perfect dorm quilt. So I don't care if it's a guy or a gal that you're sending off. I think this would be a fabulous quilt to send back to college with those kids. Use it as a sofa throw. It's just a great, easy quilt. And one of the things that I found when I took this to my quilter, I said I wanted it to really have some great quilting in it because I just think it had the background to put all of the quilting in. Now, if you're like me and you quilt by check, which is how I quilt, then you might go, well, I'm not doing that. But it would be real easy to do a stitch in the ditch on this one, still get it done, still get it off to those kids. So now the cattywampus thing, let's get back to that real quick. I don't know if you guys have heard of the word discombobulated. That was another thing when I looked up dictionary.com and I looked at the meaning of cattywampus. It actually came up with the word discombobulated. For those of you who have followed me, you know that I'm fascinated with the word discombobulated. As much as I've flown in my life, and I have flown a lot, I flew through the airport in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And as I walked through, there is an area in that airport that says recombobulated. Now that's just fascinating to me. I had no clue that the world had a place that if you were discombobulated, you could just fly yourself right through there, you'd be recombobulated. I did a little research on that. It is the only airport in existence that has a recombobulated area. Now, this is a little trivia that's bonus for you. It doesn't have anything to do with quilting, but it's just a bonus. If the person who is in charge of that airport thought it would be clever, because when you go through security, you're all in a mess and you've dropped stuff and you put stuff where you don't know where it was, so you could recombobulate yourself when you go through that area. So if you are working on this and you find yourself totally discombobulated, I don't know if you have time to fly to Milwaukee or not, but you might want to just take a little breather, spend a little bit more time, because when you start working on this on the diagonal, if this is the first quilt you've ever sewn on diagonal, you're going to be a little bit frustrated if you don't follow the pattern. And I am telling you, the pattern writers have done a brilliant job on this, because the way it's laid out for you is step by step. Be real careful. You can press everything on those rectangles on your main unit. You can press those from here to there, and you will have no problem fitting them back together because the seams always oppose each other. But when it comes time to those side set where you've got that diagonal seam open, be real careful. That's it. I'd like to make this a little more complicated than it is, but we think the fun of these pre-cut projects for you is how quick you can get them in your life, get them done, and get them back to someone that you care about. So have fun playing with your cattywampus quilt. If you find yourself totally discombobulated, give me a call. I'll see if I can help you work that out. We look forward to seeing you on the next video. Have a great day. Bye-bye. I told you it was short and sweet.